Hello, my name is Emma, and in today's video we are talking about love and dating. I'm going to teach you some very good vocabulary you can use when you're talking about boyfriends, girlfriends, people you like. You will see these words maybe on TV, in movies, especially if you like romantic comedies. These words come up a lot. So specifically, what I am going to teach you is phrasal verbs that have to do with love as well as dating, okay? So you might be wondering, what is a phrasal verb? Good question. So if you know what a verb is an action, okay? So some examples of verbs are play, listen, look, eat. These are all different verbs. A phrasal verb is a little bit different. The reason a phrasal verb is different is because you have the verb and a preposition, okay? So what's a preposition? A preposition is a word like on, off, over, under, above, below, at, in. These are all prepositions, okay? So the thing about a phrasal verb is when you have a verb, imagine the verb get. If we add a preposition to it, it changes the meaning of the verb. So for example, we have get on, get off, get over, get under, okay? Get above. We have all these different phrasal verbs with get, and each one has different meanings. And the meaning is really in the preposition, okay? So we have tons of these in English, and we use them a lot in conversation. So today we're going to look at some ones that have to do with dating. So let's give some examples, okay? I have here hit on. Hit on is a phrasal verb. We have hit, which is the verb, and on, which is the preposition, okay? Before we continue, I just wanted to point out one thing. There are different types of phrasal verbs. So we have phrasal verbs where the verb and the preposition are together. There's nothing in between them. So hit on is an example of this. You see hit and on, they're together. There's nothing in here. There's no person, there's no object. Hit and on, the preposition and the verb are together. Now there is also a different type of phrasal verb where you have the verb and then there's something in between the verb and then there's the preposition. So for example, another phrasal verb we will look at today, check out. You have check her out. So you actually have the verb, the preposition, but there is something in between the verb and the preposition. In this case, we have a person. In other cases, it might be an object, okay? There's also a third type of phrasal verb where pretty much with the third type, you have a choice. You can either put the phrasal verb together or it can be separate. Today, we're mainly though looking at either ones that are together like hit on or ones that are separated by a person or a thing such as check her out. If you're a little bit confused, don't worry because we will be looking at so many examples of what I'm talking about today so you will really understand this concept. Okay, so let's look at hit on and the meaning of hit on. So I have here the sentence, Dave hit on me. Okay, so we have hit, which is the verb, on, which is the preposition. They're always together. And what this means is, it means Dave said something to me. He told me that I was maybe beautiful or pretty, and maybe he asked me for my phone number. When you hit on somebody, it means that you're showing somebody that you're interested in them, okay? So if you ever have seen any movies where you have people in bars or at clubs, you have, and this can also be for real life too, you might have a man go up to a woman and hit on her, meaning he says to the woman, can I buy you a drink? Or, can I talk to you? I think you're very beautiful. So this is hit on. It means you're telling somebody or you're showing somebody that you are interested in them, okay? Okay, the next one I wanted to look at, the next phrasal verb is check out. So the man checked her out. What does this mean? When somebody checks you out, it means they're looking at you in a certain way. Check out, when we're talking about dating, really has to do with the eyes, okay? So when you check someone out, it means you use your eyes to look at them up and down. And while you're looking at them, you're thinking, wow, this person's very handsome. Or wow, this person's very beautiful. This girl's so sexy. Okay, so you're really, really thinking about how attractive they are. So you're not talking, you're just looking at somebody and thinking about how attractive they are. So when someone looks at a person showing interest. So I have here a picture of this. I have a woman here and a man here. And this woman, with her eyes, she's looking at the guy and she's thinking, wow, he's cute. So she's checking him out. Sometimes you have friends. Maybe there's a group of women who are looking at a guy and they're looking him up and down and they're thinking, wow, what a handsome guy. They're checking that man out. Or the same can be the opposite. Maybe there's a bunch of guys, maybe construction workers. That's a common stereotype. And a girl's walking by in a nice, pretty dress, and all the guys are looking at her. Those guys are checking her out. Okay? So these are two common phrasal verbs we use with dating. Now let's look at some more. Okay, so the next phrasal verb we're going to look at is probably the most important on this list. And the reason it's so important is because we use it all the time. Okay, so you will definitely hear this one a lot. So let's look at it. This is go out with somebody. Okay, so for example, Calvin goes out with Amy. Or they are going out. So what does go out mean? Well, it's another way to say to date or to be a couple. Okay, so for example, we have here Calvin and we have here Amy, and every Friday night maybe they like to go to the movies together and they go to a restaurant together and they really like each other. That's why I drew the hearts. So they are going out. It means they are going on a date. Maybe they're boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe not. Maybe Calvin has 5 girlfriends and he's going out with five women at the same time. It's in different cultures you get different things happening with dating. But going out means you're pretty much with somebody and you really like them. Okay, so Calvin is going out with Amy. They're a couple. They're together. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to this. Go out is also together. They're one of those phrasal verbs where go and out are together. There's nothing between them. We don't need the with. We can actually end just with they're going out. So if you're talking about 2 names, Kim goes out with Kanye, for example. In that case, you'd use the with. But if you're just talking about 2 people and, like they're at the beginning of the sentence, you can also say Kim and Kanye are going out. Okay. So very, very important. It comes up a lot in English culture. If you're ever interested, maybe you meet 2 people and you want to know if they're boyfriend and girlfriend, you can say, hey, are those 2 people going out? Okay, so that's how we can use it. Let's look at another example. Stand or stood me up. So stand is the present tense of stood. Stood is the past tense. They have the same meaning. In this example, I'm using the past tense. So my example is my date. So the person I'm going out with, my date stood me up. What does this mean? Well, it means when you have plans to meet somebody, imagine I'm supposed to go to the movies and I'm supposed to go with my boyfriend. And imagine if at the very last minute, he doesn't come. So I'm waiting there, I'm looking at my watch. Where's my boyfriend? Why hasn't he come yet? And he doesn't call. He doesn't tell me where he is. So I wait and wait and wait, and he never comes. That's a very sad story. Luckily, that's never happened, but it means to stand someone up, okay? So anytime you see somebody waiting and their date doesn't come, they were stood up. Okay, so one thing to notice with the grammar of this, stood and up, is there something between stood and up? You'll notice in this case the word me, but it's a person. So you can stand a person up. So Cindy stood John up. Okay, so a lot of the times we have a person here. Could we do it without? My date stood up? No, this has a different meaning. In this case, without a person here, it means you stand up. So that's why the placement of these things are so important. All right, let's look at two more examples. We have turn on and turn off. Two more very good examples of dating vocabulary. So what are these examples? Tattoos turn me on. This means tattoos, in my opinion, are attractive. I like tattoos on a man. When I see tattoos, I don't know if you can see. Okay, I feel my heart flutter. I like tattoos. Okay, now what's the opposite? Big muscles, so big muscles, turn me off. This means, in my opinion, I don't think they are attractive. It means I don't like big muscles, okay? For some people, you could say intelligence. People who are smart turn me on. People who like to read turn me on. People with mustaches turn me on. This means I find them attractive. And then the opposite, maybe you could say somebody who smells turns me off. Maybe somebody who is rude, somebody who is not polite. That's a turn off. That turns me off. So it means I don't like that in a person I'm dating. So turn on is attractive. Turn off means it's something unattractive. Now notice the placement for these phrasal verbs, okay? Tattoos turn me on. Is there something in between turn and on? Yeah, we have the person here. The Hollywood actors turn me on, okay? It means I find them attractive. You could also put somebody else's name here, for example. I know with my sister, British guys, she loves British accents. British accents turn my sister on, okay? Maybe beards, long beards, turn my sister off. So you can put a person between turn and on or turn and off. We also have the noun form of this. We can say, wow, beards are a turn on. In this case, it's a noun. Or we can say long hair on a man is a turn on. We could say smelly, people who smell are a turn off. Okay, so we have it in the noun form. Okay, and this is actually quite common too. So now let's look at some other phrasal verbs we can use. Okay, so our next phrasal verb is also very common, and that is to make out with somebody. In this case, I have it in the past tense, but we can also say they make out or they will make out. In this case, I wrote they made out. So made is the verb and out is the preposition. So what does this mean? It means to kiss very passionately. Sometimes you might see people, usually not in public, but every once in a while you might see somebody making out with somebody else on a park bench, for example. So this is making out. It means to kiss very passionately. Our next sentence is hook up, okay? Hook up, hook in this case is the verb, and up is the preposition. When you say hook up, it usually means sex. They had sex. They hooked up. So this is a very important one to know in case you accidentally make some kind of mistake. You can say, did you hear about, John and Karen? They hooked up, okay, meaning they had sex. Okay, the next one is cheat on. He cheats on his girlfriend. She cheats on her boyfriend. Now, this one is a really sad one. When you cheat on somebody, it means you lie to them and you go to somebody else. Maybe you go to them sexually or maybe emotionally. But it's where, imagine this is the husband, this is the wife. The wife now is with this guy and she's lying to her husband. So let's look at an example. So you lie to somebody and you go out with someone who is not your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. So if you ever look at celebrity gossip, there's always stories of people cheating on each other. Bill cheated on Hillary, for example. There's tons of examples you can find of people cheating on other people. And finally, break up. Okay, so oftentimes if somebody cheats on somebody, there is going to be a breakup. So when you break up with somebody, it means you end the relationship. So if you have, John and Karen together, now they break up. They're not together anymore. Okay. So if we look at the grammar of this, we can say we broke up. Okay. This is in the past tense. We break up is in the present tense. We will break up is in the future tense. So in this case, broke is the verb. Up is the preposition. If I wanted to talk about who broke up with whom, we could do that too. John broke up with Karen. Or we could say Karen broke up with John. But you'll notice that break and up are together in terms of the words. There's nothing between them. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. We have covered a lot. We've covered grammar in terms of phrasal verbs, and we have also covered a lot of really good dating vocabulary that's very popular and very common. So I want to thank you for watching, and I would also like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. There you can actually find a lot of other resources on pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, IELTS, all sorts of different things. You might also like my vocabulary lesson on how to talk about guys you like and how to talk about girls you like. So that's something to check out if you want to learn more about talking about dating. I also want to invite you to come check out our website at www.engvid.com. There you can actually do quizzes and you can practice everything you learned today by taking my quiz. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.